Hello and welcome everyone to this week in the soundtrack, where we are talking about the soundtrack album, sound design, and specifically the way Wes Anderson uses music in his films. So you have two chapters in your books, one in each. And then you do have a PDF of my dissertation to read. So it's not going to look like this. It's going to look like a PDF. So it's going to look like this. And then when you, well, this is not a touch screen, but when you touch on it, it will look like this. So you have my dissertation. You do not need to read the whole thing because it is over 200 pages long. I mean, you can see how thick it is. But what I want you to read is chapter 13 in Hearing Movies, and in particular in chapter 13 you want to, let me try to find the section for you. I forgot to specifically, you want to read the section on compilation scores and popular music. And so that starts on 468. And so this is where they're going to go into details about 500 Days of Summer, Clueless, Grosse Point Blank, and Moonrise Kingdom. And so I have some clips from here that will be discussed, that you'll see in there to kind of go along with the reading. And then in here, the chapter here is called, it's by Ian Garwood, and it's called Vinyl Noise and Narrative in CD Era Indiewood. And he's actually a very nice guy. I've met him at a conference before, and so he's talking about how vinyl records are used in specific films, and the three films that he goes into great detail about is The Royal Tenenbaums, Pulp Fiction, and Ghost World. So actually, of those three soundtracks, I do not have, I can't believe it, I do not have Ghost World, and but I do have, okay, where did the Royal, I do have the Royal Tenenbaums, and I do have Pulp Fiction. And for some reason, I don't have Pulp Fiction on vinyl, and Royal Tenenbaums has not been released on vinyl. In case you care, that's why I don't have it behind me. So yeah, I've pulled out some of the CDs since it's talking about the compilation, and a lot of these were these soundtrack albums were released on CD or on vinyl, as you can see behind me. All right, so I actually also have, since there's quite a few clips, I have it broken down into the dissertation. Then it has a folder for clips from the Hearing the Movies, so for chapter 13. Then we have clips from the Palmgrave essay. And then we have clips that are talking about Wes Anderson in general. So each section has clips that are related to Wes Anderson. So chapter 13 starts off in Hearing the Movies, starts off talking about the compilation score and how popular music is used within films, especially from the 2000s to today. And it actually goes a little bit later, but in general it's 2000s to today. And it starts off with its discussion on how 500 Days of Summer uses the Regina Spektor song Hero. And 500 Days of Summer, we've already had a clip in a previous week in which we used the Hall & Oates and how the Hall & Oates song "You Make My Dreams Come True," shows the emotion of our main character. But we have here in this scene, we have the use of Hero and how it plays during a scene that has expectations and reality. So and how it also uses the lyric, "I am the hero of the story." Well, yeah, the main character that is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt is our protagonist in this story. He is you could say he's our hero, even though at this point he's not going to get what he wants in this scene when we see reality versus expectation. And so the essay talks about how the lyrics kind of work ironically in this scene, and how he is left alone at the end of this scene. So as you're reading that, or after you've read chapter 13, I definitely want you to now see visually and orally how Regina Spektor's Hero is used in this scene from 500 Days of Summer. So watch it right now. Another way that the book talks about how pop music is used in a film is in the opening of the film Clueless. And within 4 short minutes, it features 4 songs to give you a sense of what world we're going to be inhabiting, and also a little bit about our main character, Cher, played by Alicia Silverstone, but also some of the more minor characters that are in the film. And so your book goes into, chapter 13 goes into details about that. But the 4 songs are the Muffs' cover of Kids in America. And so this really establishes that we're dealing with teenagers in this film. We have David Bowie's Fashion that plays, and this reflects on how our main character Cher is really into fashion. We have No Doubt's I'm Just a Girl, again playing with how Cher is and telling you a little bit about her. And then the final song in this sequence is Salt and Pepper's Shoop. And you'll see how this is actually more signifying basically Cher's best friend and her best friend's boyfriend. But it also points to how Cher is also looking for love. So watch this 4-minute clip and see how all these songs are used to give you a sense of what is Clueless going to be about, who are some of the main characters, a little bit about these characters, and yeah, just how quickly 4 songs are kind of churned out in this opening sequence. So enjoy Clueless. All right, this next scene is one that I love. It's from a movie called Grosse Pointe Blank. And Grosse Pointe Blank is chock full of, I forgot to point out the 500 Days of Summer soundtrack. But Grosse Pointe Blank has so much music in it that it has 2 soundtrack albums. The one is more music from the film, and then the additional one is more music from the film or music that was going to be in the film but didn't quite make the cut. So yeah, and it's mostly songs since this is a film that takes place during our main character's 10-year reunion. So it's mostly songs from the 80s, but this is just a really fun scene. All right, so setting the scene, or I should say a little bit. John Cusack's character is a hitman, and he returns home to Grosse Pointe, Michigan, and yeah, the video has Grosse Pointe spelled wrong, by the way. I have it spelled correctly in the in the description. See, this is how it's spelled. So, Grosse Point Blank. So he's going to his 10-year reunion, and but he returns home and finds out that his childhood home has been turned into a convenience store. And this relevation, this he finds out, and he actually sees what has become of his childhood home, to Guns N' Roses cover of Wings, Live and Let Die. And this does comment on the fact that, yeah, he's a hitman, and also things have changed for him. So lyrically, it speaks on where the character is in his life, and how he does deal with life and death situations as well. Also, this is, as I said, this is a song originally done by Wings, Paul McCartney and Wings, and it was featured in the James Bond film of the same name. But Guns N' Roses, their cover, not only plays with the soundtrack sound. These are songs that you're meant to hear in this film. But what is done fantastically is, as Martin enters from the outside into the convenience store, it goes from this non-diegetic use of the pop song to the diegetic use of Muzak, and it's a Muzak version of Live and Let Die. So Muzak is kind of like the easy listening type of music that you hear a lot of times used in stores. So we have that. And this is also in the section that, in the chapter in which Jeff Smith talks about this concept of the music being spatially displaced. So enjoy Grosse Point Blank and the use of Live and Let Die, both in the Guns N' Roses version and the Muzak version. So enjoy. All right, so the final sequence in the chapter is from Wes Anderson's film Moonrise Kingdom. So I've got Moonrise Kingdom right behind me. And Moonrise Kingdom, in this film, in this chapter is discussing how this clip is used also as a way of having some sort of spatial, being spatially displaced or temporally displaced. And this is in the discussion of how the song, let me just, since I don't feel like flipping through the chapter, how the Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra by Benjamin Britten, how that track is being played by Susie's brother, and he plays it on his record player. But first we hear the sounds of lightning, and then we have this this wonderful what will become a dollhouse shot, and this is something that Wes Anderson is known for. But in terms of the chapter, it talks about how this record that's being played by Susie's little brother, how he puts this record on, and it's obviously diegetic. It's how we hear it coming out of the record player. And then as soon as Susie opens the curtains and we see the reverse shot of her looking out, the music becomes non-diegetic. But then it kind of changes just a little bit as we, track through the house. And so while this music plays and we see Susie's family and how they live in the house, and this entire track plays, but it doesn't play diegetically. It is one of those things where it is used to score this sequence. Also, This is an instance in which characters are playing musical devices and we hear the music emanating from them. And this is also important because later on, Susie will steal, borrow her brother's record player and take it with her uh, when she runs away with Sam. So this record player becomes important. But for this chapter that you read, the way the music is used is a way to deal with this kind of spatial, both spatial and temporal, uh, displacement of the music. So enjoy the use of this in Moonrise Kingdom, and we'll be coming back and talking more about tracking shots slash dollhouse shots that are very popular in Wes Anderson films. So check out this scene. All right, so now we're going to move into the Palmgrave chapter. And in this chapter is talking about how three key films have characters that are playing vinyl records, and their connection to vinyl records, and if they are truly playing vinyl records or not. Now, in this scenario, I mean there is going into detail on how Margot uses her record player and plays a few key songs in this sequence. Pulp Fiction, we have Mia playing Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man. And then we've got a couple different tracks that Enid in Ghost World is playing. So the first sequence has to do with Margot Tannenbaum and how she uses her record player. And the sequence talks about how the movie and how the scene is structured in order to squeeze the vinyl's use, and this kind of removes some of Margot's control. Though, if you read my Royal Tannenbaum section of the dissertation, I would say that Margot uses her record player as a way to connect to Richie, and much of it, while yes, a lot of the music in this scene speaks to Richie, it's because Margot is using it as a way to connect with him. So in this sequence, it's called Fly Trim in here. In the Royal Tannenbaums, it features Nick Drake's song Fly. And in this sequence, the use of the song Fly starts off playing non-diegetically, but then it switches to diegetic. And this is when you get this whole concept of Margot Tannenbaum is using her records to connect and call Richie home. And lyrically, she's able to bring him home and use this music as a way to do this. And there's a couple other characters in Wes Anderson's films that uses music from musical devices as a way to connect with others, and even sometimes calling out to potential loved ones. Also, the Rolling Stones, She Smiles Sweetly and Ruby Tuesday are both used. We see Margot putting on the Rolling Stones record, and the lyrics to this piece is able, into both of these songs are able to speak to both Margot and Richie's relationship, able to communicate what they can't verbalize. Though, as you'll read in the chapter, he's more concerned with the fidelity of the record playing, and really how Margot is cut off as she's putting on the record, how we don't see her put on the Nick Drake record or though claims there isn't enough time for her to take off the Nick Drake record and put the Rolling Stones one on, which I call bullshit. But so you decide as you see this, because before Richie comes into the tent, she's already taken the Nick Drake song off. She turned it off when she says hello. But in this sequence, we get 3 songs, and it starts off with Fly starting non-diegetically. It starts as Richie has left the hospital. If you haven't seen the film, he has just attempted suicide, but he has checked himself out, and he attempted suicide because he found out that Margot was basically had lots of affairs, and he's secretly in love with her. And they both are attracted to each other, and this is what we really see here. Margot is adopted, so while their love for each other is kind of forbidden, they aren't related by blood, so I guess it could be okay. But this whole concept of Margot calling out to Richie through the use of her records, I think, is important. The lyrics to Fly starts with Richie. We also have Royal in there, their father. But the whole concept of the lyrics, please give me second grace, is both of them are asking for second chances. And the lyrics in general speak a lot to their situation. And once Richie returns home is when the music becomes diegetic. You hear how it changes in its fidelity. You hear the sound of how the record plays within the ballroom where the tent is. And then you also hear her turn it off and say hello. So you hear her actually turning off the record player. Then when he asks, what is she doing in the tent? She says, I'm just listening to some records. And then she puts on the Rolling Stones. And while they're while they're talking to one another, she smiles sweetly, and Ruby Tuesday both play. Both of them speak what they really can't communicate to one another. And then at the end of the scene, Ruby Tuesday moves from diegetic to non-diegetic and moves on to the next scene. So check out this sequence, and you decide on how much you believe in the author in chapter 17 of Palmgrave, Ian Garwood, and especially on the fidelity of the vinyl. He also says that Margot, because of the squeezing of the vinyl, because it's not the accurate song that plays back to back on that Rolling Stones record, and that there isn't enough time for her to switch out the record, that she loses her control, which, sure, whatever, believe what you want to believe. So check it out. So there's also a discussion on how in the Royal Tannenbaums the use of the Ramones' Judy's a Punk has a very vinyl-esque way of its being played, especially as it's being cut off, because the song came out during the vinyl era. Though, yes, you can hear it on CD, but when it initially came out, it was vinyl or cassette. But this sequence plays, and it's a montage of Margot and how secretive she is. This is a private investigator file, and pretty much it, some of her most secret parts of her life is running away, smoking, and all of the various affairs that she has. And this is all played out in a montage sequence that we'll see plays very similarly in Rushmore, uh, in Max showing off his extracurricular activities in set to making time by creation. So so check this out. And this, for the most part, is how, according to the chapter, this is co-opting Margot's association with vinyl. So check out Judy's a Punk by the Ramones and Margot's secret private investigation file montage. Jackie is a punk, Judy is a runt. Okay, I'm not gonna continue on that. But yes, the secret lives of Margot. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to Pulp Fiction. So why did I put it's a Pulp Fiction? and yeah, and there's Mia. And the use of vinyl in this scene, or is it really being used? And Son of a Preacher Man. Now, I would argue that even though in the front room, she does have, or the Wallace household, because she is Marcellus Wallace's wife, they have a reel-to-reel player and a CD player, but the Dusty Springfield song that we hear is not being played via CD or by reel-to-reel from the front room. Though, at the end, we see the vinyl record needle come off the record. And so there's this, in this scene, is she really playing this or not? Well, I would say, since she controls the technology and she controls the mood, and the fact that we only get to see parts of her, the fact that there's an intercom system set up, I wouldn't be surprised if they have the precursor to a smart home system where you have speakers everywhere. And so she can play her record in her bedroom and it can be heard all over the house. So I'm just saying, he's a gangster. He's got a lot of money. The fact that they, have the security system and the way their house is set up, it's set up nice. They're not hurting for money. But again, that's my little criticism there. But the use of this scene and this song plays very well in the opening and introducing of the very secretive Mia Wallace. And it also plays with the whole concept of our main character, played by John Travolta, Vincent. He has to be a good guy. He has to be a good boy. Even though he just shot up some heroin before going on this date. And he is going to drink because his boss, Marcellus Wallace, wants him to take Mia out and show her a good time. But he doesn't want her to be attracted to her sexually, because the last person that got close to her by giving her a foot massage was thrown out of a window. And this is something that we get early on in the film. So he has to be like a Son of a Preacher Man. But Mia Wallace, we only get parts of her. We hear her voice. We get her red lips. We, see bits and pieces of her. And then the final thing that we see in this scene are her feet, the object that causes is it Ricky Rockamora to get thrown out of a window. And that also the way she moves her feet also triggers the ending of the song and the needle coming off the record. Also, though, the other thing is that not only this being almost like a seduction scene, the needle on the record works on a couple different levels. Though again, I would say she's setting the scene. She is trying to be both mysterious and kind of setting up this kind of flirtation, seduction in this scene. I could be reading it wrong, but that's my opinion. But the record, the needle on the record, not only plays with, right before this scene, we had Vincent shooting up heroin. After this scene, Mia is going to get a needle, a giant needle in the heart, an adrenaline shot, because she mistakes heroin for cocaine, and she snorts it instead of cooking it and shooting up. And so this gives you a hint of, or this playing with this whole concept of needles and danger. So it does play with this whole concept of danger that's going on. I also wanted to include the reel-to-reel machine, the one that we actually see her playing. And this is after they go out on their date and they dance. They have fun. They win the contest, or they stole the the award. Either way, they come home with the trophy. They're having a good time. They're dancing, and she puts on the reel-to-reel, "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon." And so this is also, the lyrics definitely play heavy onto the scene. This is a song that she is familiar with. She plays, kind of like air guitar to it. She sings along to it. Even though it's a cover version done by Urge Overkill. And anyone that's in my Chicago media class, we talked about Urge Overkill last week, just a tiny bit as a Chicago man. But her playing the song, sets us up for the overdose sequence. So it is a warning if you don't want to watch someone that snorts up heroin. I mean, yeah, it's not real, it's a movie, but it can be kind of graphic at the end of the sequence. No, we're not seeing the shooting up, or we don't have the shooting up heroin in either of these sequences, and we don't have the adrenaline shot. But basically what I'm saying is that, yes, she starts overdosing at the end of this scene, and it can be a little much. So I want you to watch these two scenes from Pulp Fiction that features Mia Wallace and Vincent, and you can decide, is she controlling the scene by playing the Dusty Springfield Son of a Preacher Man? Or is this final record just a symbol of what is to come? And but also how the music plays with the scene and kind of the seduction, and then how she does control the reel-to-reel machine and the song that she's using, and she doesn't realize that, she will go from this playful, flirtatious girl, and she's got a lot of growing up that happens as soon as this scene is over. So check out these scenes in Pulp Fiction. And I should also note that the essay that that is mentioned on about Quentin Tarantino and how it pertains to what is it called? I want to make sure it's by Kevin Gardner. And would you like to hear some music in and out of control in the films of Quentin Tarantino? So that article is really good in discussing how Tarantino's characters not only play music and control music, but also how Tarantino uses music in many of his films. And then he does have another one that goes in a little bit further. Kevin Garner, or is it Ken Garner? I want to get his name right because I should. Where are you? La 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 la. Ken. Oops, sorry, Ken Garner. So he's written 2 articles on Quentin Tarantino. The other one is, you've heard this one before, Quentin Tarantino's scoring practices in Kill Bill to Inglourious Bastards. So, but it's the first one that I believe Garner discusses how Mia controls the music in both of those scenes. So, FYI. And but it but they're it goes into detail about that. Okay. So, and yeah, I have gotten Glorious Bastards right there. All right. Ghost World is the third film that Ian Garwood goes into discussion about. And this is mostly as it pertains to Enid, though Steve Buscemi's character of Seymour, he is obsessed with 78 records, and there are scenes where they are listening to said records. But the 2 key points that that he discusses is that the authenticity of the sound of how Enid is playing the Skip James song Devil Got My Woman, and when that song plays, how she's mesmerized by this song, and she repeatedly plays this song, and how we hear the scratches in the record, and and we see her restart it over and over again. Also visually, when she's transfixed onto the record, the camera also does this rotating motion, or this arcing, so that you can see that how she is all of a sudden, she's listening to this song and how it's really affecting her, and it's affected her so much that that she has to listen to it over and over again. And then the final sequence that we have is her playing her childhood 45, A Smile and a Ribbon, and how initially she just plops it on her turntable. She at first she doesn't even hit the record, she hits the platter, so we hear that noise, and then she puts it on, and so we hear the song. And then how we get to the end of the song, and how she pauses, and we just hear the of the end of the record noise. So so as you've read that the chapter, how it connects, how Enid plays records, and how the importance of the sound of the record noise is in her connecting to this music, and also in the case of the final clip, almost a sense of pause and nostalgia, and then moving on. So check out these scenes. So so one of the things, I don't have Ghost World on vinyl. I don't have Ghost World on CD. I had the opportunity to, but unfortunately it did not happen because it was exclusive, and the copy that I had set aside for myself, I gave it to someone that was more worthy because I was a nice person. I know. So I will live in the world of soundtracks. It will come back to me someday. All right, so in the first 2 chapters, there's been discussion of Wes Anderson. And one of the things that I want you to do is, oh my gosh, read the intro and the conclusion of my dissertation. And feel free to read another chapter of your choosing. I would suggest either reading the Darjeeling Limited one or the Rushmore one, or if you really Moonrise Kingdom is mentioned in my conclusion. If you really feel like going above and beyond, feel free to read the Life Aquatic chapter. It is my longest chapter. It's like, I thought it still was longer, but that's okay. I really cut it down. It's a whopping. I thought it was more than 50 pages. Oh well. Yeah, I had to cut a lot out of that chapter. It made me very, very sad. So, yeah. Still makes me sad to think about it. Okay. So, first 2 chapters, definitely check out. Or you can any of these chapters you want, but introduction and conclusion definitely, and then pick. You can read Bottle Rocket if you want. You can read Royal Tenenbaums if you want, but my examples that I have are from Rushmore, The Life Aquatic, Darjeeling Limited, and Moonrise Kingdom. And as I mentioned, Moonrise Kingdom is in the conclusion, so you're already reading about that. So, in the very beginning of my introduction, and the title of my dissertation, What is This Music? Auteur Music in the Films of Wes Anderson, is where I actually pose the question and where I get the title of this. Basically, it starts off in Wes Anderson's short film Hotel Chevalier from 2005. Jack Whitman, Jason Schwartzman, plays Peter Sarsden's 1969 track, Where Do You Go To, My Lovely, from his iPod, just as his ex-girlfriend, played by Natalie Portman, arrives at his hotel room. The song begins with an accordion, and then we hear the lyrics, You talk like Marlene Dietrich, as Jack opens the door to his ex-girlfriend talking on her cell phone. Once she hears the song, she asks, What's this music? Jack just shrugs, slightly shaking his head. Jack, unable to explain the music, even though he is responsible for playing it, grasps at her in an awkward embrace as she enters the room. Where Do You Go To plays 3 times in this short film and plays again in Anderson's feature-length film, The Darjeeling Limited, in 2005. In both films, this song is played when Jack is trying to woo women and to express musically how he feels about them at that moment. He is the DJ of the Darjeeling Limited. He brings his iPod with him on his trip across India with his brothers, and he is seen playing music at key emotional moments. Furthermore, Jack as a DJ represents Wes Anderson, who, by utilizing seemingly deeply personal choices of music to score his film, embodies what Slate writer Adam Baer calls the director as DJ. What is this music Anderson uses in his films? Why does he not pick the latest top 40 Billboard hits and instead choose mostly music from the 60s and 70s, or originally composed music by Mark Mothersbaugh? Why does this music seem to evoke so much more than what the characters in Anderson's films can convey, or articulate? This is auteur music. So on one page, I pretty much establish why I picked the title of this, and it's from the film Hotel Chevalier, or the are pretty much the prelude to the Darjeeling Limited. So it's a film that comes out right before that, and the events that take place in the Darjeeling Limited or Hotel Chevalier takes place before the main events in the Darjeeling Limited. So I have the entire Hotel Chevalier clip there for you, so you can actually see all three hear all three different times that this song plays in the film. And this plays with this whole concept of, in Wes Anderson's films, a lot of times he has, in particular, though not always, pop music, and I say pop music in the case of songs. He uses songs that play during montage sequences, slow motion sequences, and emanating from musical devices. Now, typically, the songs emanating from musical devices is a way for characters to connect with one another. So, as you watch, and FYI, this dissertation was written before some of Anderson's musical choices started to change. So, so I will state that by Darjeeling Limited is the first film that he doesn't use Mark Mothersbaugh. So I guess I should point that out. So Mark Mothersbaugh is he's a composer, but he was also in the he still is in the band Devo, and he wrote the original score for Anderson's first 4 films. So that would be for Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, and The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. The Darjeeling Limited is a pure compilation score. So that film features all music that is from either Indian films or films that take place in India, and the music by the Kinks, plus the Peter Sarsgaard song Where Do You Go to My Lovely, and a few other ones. Then starting with Fantastic Mr. Fox, he starts to work with Alexandre Desplat as a composer. And so Alexandre Desplat has done the scores to all of Anderson's films, starting with Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then moving on from Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest Hotel, Isle of Dogs, and the current film, The French Dispatch. Hopefully I didn't forget any right there. And I haven't seen the French Dispatch yet. So there is an evolution. So he did switch composers. Wes Anderson is also known for using Rolling Stone songs in many of his films. So it's already been mentioned in your little in one of your set of clips. I believe it's in the Royal Tenenbaums one. The Rolling Stones is featured in many of his films. Though the first time he doesn't use the Rolling Stones is in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which focuses on mostly David Bowie songs, and then he does return and has the Rolling Stones and Darjeeling Limited and Fantastic Mr. Fox, but Moonrise Kingdom doesn't have any Rolling Stones. Moonrise Kingdom doesn't even have any British invasion type music whatsoever. And so it's after Moonrise Kingdom that he is more open to maybe not using what would be considered traditional songs or pop songs. So we have more folk songs and original music in the Grand Budapest Hotel. We have more Asian inspired songs in Isle of Dogs, but we do have the West Coast experimental pop band in there that kind of is very British invasion sounding. And and then Jarvis Cocker starts to appear in Wes Anderson films. So he is the character of Petey and performs a song in Fantastic Mr. Fox. And then he also has performed a song in The French Dispatch. So this is when he, before the major changes happened. And so this is kind of like first phase Wes Anderson in terms of sound design. And if I was going to follow up, there would be phase 2. So 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 in addition to that, um, he still utilizes many of these things, but again, his movies have evolved. He doesn't always use the same things, um, but for many of the films and the clips that I'm showing you, he has characters that play music out of musical devices as a way to connect to other characters. Uh, the use of slow motion is normally set to a song, though sometimes it's set to a score, and montage sequences. These are a lot of times set to a song in order to kind of condense time and that sort of thing. And then he also has been known to use more tracking shots. Initially, some of these tracking shots were sometimes associated with scenes that evoked doing something illegal or dangerous and were accompanied by usually a frenetic drum solo in the score. But it has since evolved and has been associated with dollhouse shots. And these are typically shots where you get to see the interior of a house, the interior of a ship, even the interior of a train, and meaning that we kind of have this a ship that's been cut in half, but we're able to see it, and the way that the camera moves, we get to see what the layout is of the ship as if it was a dollhouse. Uh, we see in the opening of Moonrise Kingdom, we get to see the interior of Susie's home and where all of her family members inhabit into the home. And we're gonna definitely have examples of this in the film. So the first section that we have is Hotel Chevalier, and we have a tracking shot, but this is just a traditional tracking shot where it's just moving, following the characters, but this is also playing in slow motion. And traditionally, characters that are moving in slow motion normally signifies a moment of triumph for our characters in the scene. So in Hotel Chevalier, we have a character that is playing music in order to express his feelings. We also have a song, a pop song that plays, and in this case 3 times. And so musical repetition starts to play in a couple of Wes Anderson films, especially in Darjeeling Limited. So this gives you a kind of a hint of what you're going to hear more in Darjeeling Limited. We also have a music box that the girlfriend plays, and it does have a song, and a song that actually plays in the music box comes back again, and Jack's mother plays the music box, and it's the same song, but we get towards the end of the film and we actually hear the song that was featured in the music box, and it's Les Champs-Élysées, a song by Joe Dassin. So really, in this sequence, we really only hear Peter Sarsgaard, "Where Do You Go to My Lovely?" And we hear it 3 times. First time being queued up on the iPod, then Jack's playing it as his girlfriend comes into his hotel room, and then it plays a 3rd time non-diegetically as we have this slow motion moment in the scene. So, and then the only time that we hear a little bit of Les Champs Elysees is when the girlfriend picks up the music box and plays it, and then puts it down. So, and yes, there is some nudity in this scene. So, but yeah, watch the whole film. It's short. I think it's like 15 or 16 minutes long. And here is Wes Anderson's Hotel Chevalier. One other thing I want to mention about Hotel Chevalier and this scene is again the use of repetition and the slow motion. Though this whole scene, you have the character of Jack using his iPod, and in particular this song, as a way to woo women, though initially he is trying not to. He's confused in what he wants to do with his ex-girlfriend. She's found him, and and there they are. But the slow motion is a mixture of triumph, but also, I mean, I wouldn't really say triumph, but I would say this is a moment that we're slowing it down so that these characters, this is the end of their relationship. This is their, this is a bittersweet moment for them. He's going to share his view of Paris with her, and we're not going to see what they do afterwards, but this is a moment that we get this slow motion as they move out across, move from the bedroom to the balcony, and we have the slow motion as a way as extending this moment in time. And yeah, so this is a key moment, I think, for Jack, in the fact that this is going to be it. Now, Jack is still obsessed with his ex-girlfriend in the Darjeeling Limited, but it doesn't stop him from trying to woo other women and using the song. But when we get to the end, or towards the end, we notice that the girlfriend and his mother have some similarities. And it's Jack's character that has the biggest mommy issues. But unless you want to read the Darjeeling Limited chapter of my dissertation, I'm not going to go into super great details about that, because that means going into some psychoanalytic theory. But it's important to note how the haircut is similar, and then also the mother plays the music box as well, and at the moment that she plays the music box is also Jack is listening to the Rolling Stones play with Fire on his iPod. And this is not an instance where he's using the song to woo his mom, because no, that is not the case. This is, he's hurt by his mom, and the lyrics to this sequence is almost like he's playing the song to warn her about she's hurt her, and you're playing with fire if you're playing with me, and she is going to play, she's going to set this warning back. She's older and wiser, and she knows the game. And so we get into this sequence that has this fantastic shot that's set to the Rolling Stones, Play with Fire, and lyrically it just plays just so lovingly. It's not lovingly, lovely, that's what I want to say, in this sequence. So as we watch this, we have the close-up of all of our characters, our main characters. So this is the mother, Sister Patricia Whitman, because she's currently, has gone to the Himalayas to be a nun. And the three brothers. So Jack, played by Jason Schwartzman. We have Owen Wilson's character, Uh, that is, why am I totally flaking on his name? Because I feel totally bad about that. So we have um, Owen Wilson's character of Francis, and then we have Adrian Brody's character, who is Peter. And so we have got all the brothers there, and uh, and the lyrics, again, play with the history, but then it cuts to what Matt Zoller-Seitz refer to as a dream train. And most of this film takes place on the train referred to as the Darjeeling Limited. But in this sequence, we have all of the people uh, that the Whitman brothers have encountered uh, in this film, or are part of their lives. And so we get a glimpse of all of them on this dream train, and it's, this is a almost it's a spiritual moment for the Whitman brothers, which is something that they've been wanting to, and it's almost like hopeful that all of the people that are on the train, on this dream train, are doing what they want to be doing, or doing what they should be doing, or where they are meant to be. This is also a tracking shot, a tracking dollhouse shot. Again, that what we've seen in many of his films. So this is kind of like a double whammy one, where we've got the nice tracking shot, tracking dollhouse shot, and the use of the Rolling Stones in this sequence. So check out the Darjeeling Limited and Play with Fire. All right, so now we're going to go into the simple days of Wes Anderson and Rushmore, and it's his second film. And though his first film, Bottle Rocket, he established his use of montage sequences, characters using music from musical devices, and slow motion sequences as moments of triumph. He really perfects this in Rushmore. So our first sequence is a montage sequence that I have here, and it's set to the Creation's Making Time. And the music is part of this British invasion type of music that also reflects a kind of brattiness of our main character, Max Fisher, played by Jason Schwartzman, and how he is an overachiever in terms of extracurricular activities, but he is the worst student at Rushmore. And so this is how he spends his time, and this is the Making Time sequence montage. So after watching this sequence, you probably noticed it was very similar to the Margot Tannenbaum, the Ramones' Judy as a Punk sequence. So the montage was very similar. Then we get not a stylized montage like that later on in Rushmore. And Max Fisher, after this moment, after Making Time, he kind of sets his sights on Miss Cross, and Miss Cross is a new teacher to Rushmore. Her deceased husband used to be a student at Rushmore, and Max develops a crush on her. And additionally, businessman Mr. Bloom, played by Bill Murray, also becomes attracted to Miss Cross. And when Max finds out that Bloom is having an affair with Miss Cross, they engage in a variety of acts of revenge against one another. And it's beautifully choreographed to the Who's A Quick One While He's Away. And we also have a brief moment of slow motion in this sequence when Max Fisher removes the gum from his mouth and putting it on the wall uh, in a triumphant moment. So he's pleased with himself. He feels like at this point he is winning. Well, at least he won this battle. But definitely watch on how everything kind of escalates. We even have a moment where the music comes down in the soundtrack, and the dialogue takes over, and then we come back to the music, and it's done quite dramatically. So check out this revenge montage between Max and Bloom in the film Rushmore. You are forgiven. So yeah, the whole concept of you are forgiven, but they're not forgiving each other right now. They are trying to make each other's life a holy hell, but they will forgive each other after this sequence. So at the very end of the film, we have a moment in which Max is able to orchestrate everybody coming back together and trying to give us a happy ending. And though he is dating a student that is closer to his age, and he's no longer at Rushmore, he's at public school. He did invite Miss Cross and Bloom to his epic play and after party. And though he's kind of come to terms with Miss Cross and Bloom being attracted to each other and they're more appropriate for each other, we have this moment where Max and Miss Cross actually get to be together. And it's a slow motion moment, and it's set to the Faces Ooh La La. And one of the main lyrics is, I wish that I knew what I knew now when I was younger, So this whole idea of this wishing that they knew more information, the lyrics plays really great in that. But also it's a song that Max orchestrates, and the fact that he has Ruben the DJ play this record, and we hear the record scratch and then it comes on. And earlier in the film, Max does play a cassette. He plays a French song in his attempt to seduce Miss Cross. It doesn't go very well, but so he has used music to try to connect to Miss Cross before, first on a cassette, but in this case they really do connect. The moment is a moment where, I guess if you want to explain it in more detail, throughout the entire film, Miss Cross is still grieving the loss of her husband, and she kind of, got, mixed up in these, these whims of, these, one, a teenager and a man, and really she's just grieving and still longing for her husband, her dead husband. And Max he is still attracted to Miss Cross and still wants to have her. And so at this moment they are able to dance with one another, and it moves into slow motion where everyone else is kind of dancing a little bit more fast, but Miss Cross and Max are going to dance together closer and slower. And Miss Cross has also taken off Max's glasses, and the way she looks at him is as if she's looking into her dead husband's eyes. And so this ending is triumphant for Max in the fact that he's able to get Miss Cross, or at least have a moment of connection with her. And she, for a moment, is able to dance with her dead husband, though it's Max. yeah, it's a beautiful scene, and it's a scene that that Martin Scorsese, thinks is a great great use of music in film. There's also a scene that uses the Rolling Stones in Bottle Rocket that he also finds a fantastic scene by Wes Anderson. There was an article in Esquire years ago that posed the question, who is the next Martin Scorsese? And Martin Scorsese's article was that Wes Anderson would be the next him. So, and the reasons why, and he mentions the use of ooh la la. And if you watch a lot of Wes Anderson films, and if you watch a lot of Martin Scorsese's films, whereas Wes Anderson's films are not as violent, more on whimsy, and it relies more on artifice, he's very indebted to Scorsese. So I'm going to zip it, and you can watch this scene. All right, we're going to return to Moonrise Kingdom, and this is where Susie's actually playing one of her records on her brother's record player, and this is her and Sam have run away. They have found their beach, and this is a longer sequence of them finally. They have a sense of freedom. They're here on their own terms, and she plays the Francois Hardy Le Thème de l'amour, and this is a song that she got from, I think, her aunt, and it makes her feel a little bit more adult. But this is also, they dance in their underwear on the beach, and it's also the first time they kiss, and it's their first really intimate moment with one another. So this is Susie using her record player, or using her record, but playing from a record player to not only express a moment of freedom, but also a moment of love, a time of love that her and Sam will feel at this moment. So here is Moonrise Kingdom. And then later in the film, as also an act of rebellion, even though they have been told that they should not be with one another, Sam and Susie decide that they are going to get married. And so this is a slow motion moment right after they got married. And again, notice how they're walking towards the camera, and it is definitely a slow motion triumphant moment. Though this is one of the few times that the slow motion sequence is set to a score piece and not a song. So check it out. All right, the final film is the one that I love the most, I know. And I had to really, pare down which clips I wanted to bring. And I guess if you don't want to watch all the clips, I understand. And I know this lecture is going on long, and I'm sorry. But we're really getting into a section that I really love a lot. So we have a montage sequence here in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Short version of the film. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is chock full of music. It's jam-packed full of music. And we've got original score by Mark Mothersbaugh. We have songs from the documentary films by the let's see if I can find, it's Sven Liebeck, and I know you're like, what are you doing, Laura? Let's see, Sven Liebeck, is it gonna be right here? Is it this one? No, this one. So now this is not getting me the Sven Liebeck solar flares. Okay, well, that's that. I'm trying to see what documentaries they were used in. Of course not. It's not telling me which documentaries it was used in. All right, where are you, Life Aquatic? Okay. I know, you're just like, why are you going crazy about this? Well, I guess I can look at my dissertation, but it doesn't matter. So there was a bunch of documentary films that used the music of Sven Liebeck, and and that was used. Oh, sorry, before we get out of Moonrise Kingdom. So Susie's kitten. Okay, no, this is my kitten, but looks a lot like Susie's kitten in the scenes. So this is Milo. Milo just popped out. He's been sitting here listening to this entire lecture. So, are you excited to be in the video? It's like, meow, no? Okay, so there you go. Okay. I was wondering where he was this entire time. So, do, 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 do. La, 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 la. Life Aquatic. Dee, 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 dee. So, but in general, oh, we also have Sue George singing David Bowie songs in Portuguese. He plays the character of Pele. We also have David Bowie songs. We have songs by Sigur Rós. And we even have the Life Aquatic. Or sorry, we even have Mark Mothersbaugh's band Devo featured on here. So one of the things that the Sven Liebeck Taylor, so Ron and Val Taylor, they had an underwater documentary series called Inner Space. So I probably have Inner Space in here. I do have it somewhere. So that's used throughout the film. So it's got a ton of music in it. So with Mark Mothersbaugh also creating a soundtrack that has a lot more synthesizer in it, so it's very much a little bit like Devo. His other stuff are more orchestral, or at least more classical based in the previous films, whereas where he gets to be a little bit more synthesized and electronic in the Life Aquatic. So there is some similarities there. So the first sequence that I have for you is in the Life Aquatic. Team Zissou is training to get ready for their next adventure, and so this includes all the interns and the crew, and the training sequence takes place in set 2. So it's a montage sequence, and it's set to Devo's Gut Feeling. And so as you watch this sequence, you think that this is actually a score because it's all instrumental in this opening sequence, but in actuality, it's the entire opening of the song Gut Feeling by Devo. And if Anderson had continued onto the scene, and you do get the whole clip where you get where Ned's character who tries scuba diving, and this song ends, and then we see Steve doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on him. If we had let the lyrics appear, it would have been what would be referred to as a musical gag, or comedic use of song lyrics, because the song lyric would be, there's something about the way you taste, makes me want to clear my throat, there's a method to your okay, well, you don't really need that next part, but something about the way you taste makes me want to clear my throat. And as you watch the film, you do notice that Steve smokes weed and he drinks the liqueur Campari all the time, so he probably tastes like weed and Campari. And so that's kind of like a fun little thing. But Check out this montage sequence. This is Devo and Gut Feeling in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. All right. Definitely in terms of triumphant endings. And so I know I'm jumping straight to the ending right here of the film. But at the very end of the film, Steve is triumphant again. So the entire film is him going through kind of a midlife crisis, and he's not successful any more at the beginning of the film. He's not successful. He's lost one of the members of his crew. His marriage is on the rocks. His crew is going to start to lose faith in him. His boat is breaking down. He's kind of like down on his luck, but he's able to finish part 2 of his film, and he receives rave reviews, and he's back on top again. And so the use of David Bowie's Queen Bitch at the end of the film, as he is able to walk triumphantly from the film fest, and it moves from slow motion of him, even though he is going down the stairs, and usually going down the stairs means a descent. This is more of a humbling moment for Steve Zissou, but he's also carrying a child on his shoulders, which has also meant that he is, because many of his films were his documentaries, children really enjoyed them. And so now there's a new generation that are going to appreciate him. And so we've got the triumphant walk. We've got the use of David Bowie that also reflects this. I mean, he's still a little punk rock, but, and he's still a little bitch, but he is, but yeah. So here he is. And then we see that the crew is all here, the gang's all there. They're all, happy for him to be Steve Zissou, and the boat is even painted over again, and so it's a whole new beginning, and life is good. So check out the spoiler ending of The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. All right, the last 2 scenes that I have the scene that also features David Bowie. For some reason, I didn't pick any of the Sue George singing David Bowie songs in Portuguese from this. It's wonderful. It's delightful. I even wrote an entire chapter about the use of that. So he just wants to be up here. So Life on Mars is a wonderful little tracking shot in which the music reflects how Steve used to be. And he used to get into fights. He was a scrapper, but he has just discovered this guy Ned, who could be his son. And so this is kind of the beginning of his midlife crisis, and the way for him to deal with it, not only is that initial trigger of the song, but then when he gets to the end of his boat, he's able to slow down just for a moment, and he takes a drag off of a puff. He inhales his joint, and we really see, the only thing we see in slow motion is just the effect of the joint leaving his mouth, and he's able then to return back to this news. And then shortly after that scene, and so we have a nice tracking shot outside of the boat of him walking through the boat, going outside to the very end of the boat to smoke his joint. And then shortly after this scene is when he gives Ned a tour of the boat, the Belafonte. And this is where we have another ultimate dollhouse shot, where we move through the actual Belafonte, but it's cut in half. And it is an actual boat that was cut in half. And so we see all the different rooms. So this is very reminiscent to Susie Bishop's house in Moonrise Kingdom, but this is all set to the Mark Mothersbaugh score that's entitled "Let Me Tell You About My Boat." So watch the Life on Mars sequence and how we have the realistic tracking through the boat. For what, the music is reflecting Steve's state of mind, and then we get that brief slow motion. And then versus the next scene, which is not super realistic, but we get to see everything about his boat. So check this out. All right, one final note. The Let Me Tell You About My Boat is an actual musical palindrome from a piece of music that Mark Mothersbaugh wrote for the Royal Tenenbaums. So I think it was Scrappin' and Yellin'. Where are you, Royal Tenenbaums? Scrappin' and Yellin'. So the song Scrappin' and Yellin', if you flip the notes, boop, it is Let Me Tell You About My Boat. So just a nice little fun fact for you. I could go on more, and it's already almost an hour and a half of a lecture, not counting you pausing to watch the videos, so I apologize for that. But this is the area that I'm like, I could go on and on and on and on and on. So yeah. Don't forget, there is a discussion journal. I will have that posted momentarily. And no, I have not seen the French Dispatch, but hopefully this week I will see it. So, ooh la la, I can't wait to see it. So enjoy this week on the soundtrack, and mostly the compilation score is pretty much what it's all about, but also how Wes Anderson uses music in his films, and a little bit about how Tarantino uses it as well. So good luck. I enjoyed your topic presentations for your final paper. And maybe this will give you some ideas also for those of you that are writing about certain films and filmmakers and that sort of thing. All right, I'm going to zip it. So, goodbye.